This is my Founders Edition 2080 Ti. It's been in my computer pretty much for the entirety of the past 2 years since they released the RTX 20 series, and it's actually given me pretty good performance overall. Today, it hopefully will be replaced by the contents of this box, which is an MSI 3090 Gaming X Trio. I've never owned an MSI card previously, so they basically have one shot at winning me over. The reason I got the MSI Gaming X Trio specifically was that I honestly couldn't find any other 3090s for sale that seemed reasonable to me. So here we are, and I'm going to go ahead and unbox it. I apologize up front for the lack of audio quality this time around. I'm using just the camera itself here. I've got a Panasonic G85, which is a great camera, but the microphone on board isn't all that great. And the reason for that is my computer is offline because the video card is right here in front of the camera instead of behind it. So this is going to be a video instead of a live stream unboxing like I usually do. And I'll go ahead and get this edited up as soon as I have the either the new card or the previous one installed. And I will shoot a separate talking head video with a better microphone later on here, letting you know how things went. Meanwhile, I just wanted to pop out the old card and basically show it off to give you an idea of what is being replaced. This is a very weighty card. The heatsink is pretty much the entirety of the unit. It's very large, and it's pretty much all metal construction. The back plate is nice aluminum. Just taking you around this this old one real quick. To show you what I'm going to replace. Takes 2 PCIe 8-pin power plugs here. The card sits in the machine like this with the back plate up, and the fans go in as far as airflow. And basically all of the heat comes out of here and out and up in the case. This is the NVLink SLI fingers here, and now only the 3090 has this, so you'll see something similar on the new card. This is, you know, a very nice, very pleasant design, very good industrial design. I really like this. I did have to get this swapped out once, this particular card, and the other card, which I had originally an SLI setup for this, needed to be RMA'd as well. I have a nice back plate here, and as far as I/O on this card, I get 1, 2, 3 DisplayPort outputs, and also this is the VR-Link connector, which is USB-C. So the I/O on the new card should be pretty similar to the old one, except for the lack of that USB-C connector, which is a little annoying, but I don't actually need it for day-to-day use. I have 3 40-inch 4K displays running at 60 Hertz. And I have those Club 3D adapters for DisplayPort to HDMI. Those go in the DisplayPort connector holes here. The HDMI is left for VR headsets. I now have 3 different VR headsets that I bounce back and forth between. That's what will go there. So I'm taking up the entirety of the I/O on both the new and old cards. And the new and old cards should have more or less the same I/O, although I suspect that the new card is not quite as good looking. Let's go ahead and set this aside and crack into it and see what we can find out. Let's go ahead and pull that back. Alright, so this was purchased from Amazon. the price on this is pretty astronomical. The old card, the 2080 Ti, cost me a cool $1,300 when it was new, and this new card cost me nearly $1,600. The box is quite a bit larger than the box for the 2080 Ti. I do have them on the shelf beside me, but I don't really feel like going over there and picking one up. I'm sorry. But this is a pretty big box. This reminds me of the old days of GeForce GTX and older like TNT2 and backward in the Voodoo days 3DFX cards. They used to come in really big boxes like this. I haven't really seen a box this size in quite some time. It's attractive box. MSI Gaming X Trio 3090. Runs the Ampere chipset. Still not sure about the whole aesthetic of the card, but the fans are going to be pointed down. You'll note right away that there are 3 coaxial fans instead of the 2 on the RTX 2080 Ti. I expect this to be kind of a hot boy, so we'll see that. Just moving the card around here, MSI Gaming X Trio 3090. On this side we've got just some serial number info, again GeForce RTX 3090. On the back side we've got some features here. Tri-Frozer 2, that's what they're calling their cooling solution. Just like games, the right loadout is essential to get the job done. The new Tri-Frozer 2 is equipped to handle anything that you can throw at it. I will be the judge of that, and I will certainly be doing a little bit of follow-up toward the end of this video with some minor, not too in-depth benchmarking numbers. Torx Fan 2.0, a masterpiece of teamwork with fans working in pairs to create unprecedented levels of focused air pressure using the ring design. I'm not sure how they get pairs of fans when there are 3 of them. I only count 3. I don't know how you get 2 pairs out of that, but we'll see how that works out. Airflow control, don't sweat it. Airflow control guides the air to exactly where it needs for maximum cooling. So apparently it uses a ring fan design, which I will show you on the card itself in just a few moments, which is kind of neat. Core pipe, precision crafted heat pipes make maximum contact to the GPU base plate and spread the heat along the full length of the heatsink. So basically like any other GPU or CPU cooler, there are heat pipes contacting the die itself. There may be a base plate, there may not be. I'm not sure about this particular design. I have a warranty on this, so I'm not going to rip it apart. There are some teardowns online already. I will link to a good one down below once I get this thing up and running. So key features, 2nd generation ray tracing cores. I'm looking forward to testing that out in games like Cyberpunk and Shadow of the Tomb Raider and a few others. Ray tracing is pretty cool. I've done some of that with the 2080 Ti, and the performance has been kind of lackluster with the 2080 Ti with ray tracing. Hoping that this new card should be significantly faster. All of the benchmarks that I've seen in advance say that this should get somewhere in the neighborhood of a good 20 to 30% faster ray tracing performance. So we'll go ahead and check that out as well. That might not be for this video, but there may be follow-up content for me coming soon on this, as these are pretty rare. So 3rd gen tensor cores, which are the AI compute on this. So this is good for things like background removal with RTX broadcast, which I use. It's also great for doing things like deep fakes, for password hashing, for cracking like Wi-Fi passwords or encryption passwords for things that I've forgotten, which comes up every so often. It supports Microsoft DirectX 12 Ultimate, which has ray tracing support and a few other things like some direct memory access stuff. Uses GDDR6 memory, which the previous card uses GDDR5, so memory should be quite a bit faster with this particular model. Nvidia DLSS is supported with both of these cards, that's listed here. So it uses GeForce Experience, which is their software suite. Automatic updates are part of the GeForce Experience, which works very well. Let's see, G-Sync is supported. I don't have any G-Sync displays that requires display support, but that removes display tearing by basically varying the refresh rate, which is kind of neat. Nvidia GPU Boost, which is basically just their clock speed boost technology, which is kind of neat. It supports NVLink. I won't actually be doing SLI this generation. I've decided that SLI just isn't supported by the things that I use on a regular basis, which is why I sold my second 2080 Ti about a year and a half ago, something like that. It just wasn't effective in the things that I wanted to do. Let's see, game ready drivers, that just means that you have up-to-date drivers for the latest and greatest games through GeForce Experience. Always a plus, but I don't know if they need to put it on the box. Vulkan RT API, the RTX 2080 Ti supported this as well, and that's basically ray tracing in the Vulkan API, which is an alternative to DirectX for rendering. This supports DisplayPort 1.4a and HDMI 2.1. That is actually going to be important for me later on down the road. 1.4a and 2.1 support, among other things, DSC, which is display compression. So that enables higher bandwidth than would ordinarily be available for display outputs. So that will enable things like 4K 120 hertz support with HDR, despite perhaps low bit rates in terms of actual connectivity. Because of that compression, they are able to get significantly better bit rates out of an actual smaller bit rate due to the compression. So I have actually been taking a look at LG's CX series of OLED TVs, which are 4K 120 hertz and utilize DSC over HDMI 2.1. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on that yet, as those are $1,600, and I would want to replace all of my displays with them, so 3, and that adds up real quick, so I'm not doing that today. Hopefully those will come down in price once they hit the low water mark of maybe $1,000 or so. If I'm still in the same financial situation, I might think about going for one of those at that point. I've also given some minor thought to just replacing my center display with one of those. We'll see how that works. But the issue I have with doing that is they're 48 inches versus the 40 inches of the displays that I have now. So I don't like the idea of having two different, I guess you could call it magnifications of pixels. They won't display the same in that the larger display will have physically larger pixels, and the things that are on the display will be slightly larger than the other two displays. I think that would drive me up the wall in terms of normal use for work and other things along those lines. Just having the difference in size versus overall DPI. So I'm still thinking that over, and I'm having some conversations with some people about that moving forward. That's probably a good year off, but that's basically what DisplayPort 1.4a and HDMI 2.1 will give. It may also give enhanced support for future virtual reality headsets, stuff that does dual pure 4K. That is 3840 by 2160 instead of 2160 by 2160 like some of the more modern headsets do. And the deal with that is VR basically needs to be at least 90 hertz to not induce motion sickness and to have a smooth experience. and to go 3840 by 2160 at 90 hertz still requires that display compression, just because there isn't enough bandwidth otherwise. Anyhow, I'll stop talking your ear off and go ahead and pop this guy open so we can go ahead and examine the card. Plastic summarily dismissed. Let's go ahead and slide that open, pop that out. Alright, looks like it pops out from the top here. I'm just going to go ahead and flip it over onto the desk. Set the box aside. Alright, MSI, wow me. Like I said, I've never had an MSI card before. This is my first trip through their packaging and support. First off, right off the bat, we get this nice black envelope. Kind of curious what's in here. Probably product manual and other things that I'm just going to set aside here. Quick user's guide. Dragon Center introduction. What do we have here? English. Package contents. Graphics card, user manual, quick guide. Alright, so that's not a whole lot. I get some system requirements here, required tools, which is just a Phillips head screwdriver, and it gives me some step-by-step hardware installation instructions and software installation instructions. That's kind of all that should be needed for people who are used to working in and around computers. It's not necessarily all that great for people who have never done this before. I'm an experienced PC technician. I've done this professionally for many years now, so I'm not too worried about it. But for anyone who has not done this before, they're probably going to be looking at YouTube anyway, which is just fine. Graphics card replacement isn't a hard job at all. Package contents, you see graphics card in the pamphlet, system requirements. Apparently PCIe is that picture, a display, and apparently Windows 10 is required, which I know it's required for some of the more advanced features, anything that's DirectX 12, but I believe that drivers might be able to be retrofitted to older systems. Thank you for choosing MSI products. This was made with great passion and we hope you could enjoy it. Please register at register.msi.com. I will go ahead and do that a little later. What do we got? MSI. Oh, okay, so this is an advertisement for some of their motherboards. I've heard MSI make some decent motherboards. Honestly, I don't believe that I've ever owned an MSI product, period. Not that they're bad at all, I just have not had the need to purchase MSI stuff specifically. I've heard good things, which is why I have this. Alright, so there's an installation guide. Alright, this is a little bit more in depth of what I expected for this. Oh, this is the graphics card support bracket installation. I'm not sure if I will use this or not, but we'll see once I get the thing in. Apparently it includes a little bracket that goes around the graphics card that basically keeps it sturdy, as it's a big heavy card, and I'll go ahead and check that out in a minute. And last, how to upgrade your PC with a new graphics card. Okay, so this is what I was kind of expecting up front. I love the dragon. That's their logo, and apparently they have them in a bunch of different cool poses. Going to school here, that's a neat idea. I'm liking that. And okay, so they have step-by-step comic book drawings for how to upgrade. They show the dragon measuring out. They're talking about things like case size, which is definitely a consideration for this. I'm not going to go through this and read it completely, as it's just some marketing and upgrade, but this is a phenomenal guide. It's looking like to go ahead and get this started. The first couple pages are basically even before opening the box and choosing a card. Alright, so the next page is basically how to pop the case open, what's needed. This is a pretty fantastic guide. I really like that they did this. I've never seen this in a graphics card box before. but this is basically everything that would be covered in most YouTube videos for upgrading. And it even goes and shows you the different kinds of various display outputs. Some of them not on this particular graphics card, but it's basically saying to pay attention to what outputs that you have in your display and what to plug in. It even gives you a tutorial for MSI Afterburner, which is their graphics card management / overclocking software. I use MSI Afterburner, and you'll probably see that a little later in this video. Oh, it shows you how to use OC Scanner. I did not see that coming. OC Scanner is a feature of MSI Afterburner and some other management softwares that allow it to adaptively overclock the graphics card. And that basically provides the best possible performance. It goes through a whole bunch of measurements and tries out a bunch of voltages and speeds, and basically enables the curve of voltage versus graphics card speed to be adjusted dynamically, and that map then saved for future use. So it's basically a really cool one-click automatic overclocker, which works really well, and was actually my plan for this a little later. It takes you step by step through the various settings and how to appropriately set those. This is a really nice guide. I wish that one of these were included with every machine. I'm extremely familiar with all of these settings. I've used Afterburner for quite some time. Afterburner itself is an MSI product that's free for all both Nvidia and AMD graphics cards. It's great management software. I recommend checking it out. In fact, there'll be a link to Afterburner down below as well. If you're not familiar with it, definitely check that out. This should be included with every graphics card, so I'm very happy that they included it. Most cards, including the RTX 2080 Ti Founders Edition, included very little in the way of documentation and getting started. It was more like manual information, or more like warranty information, and that was pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and slip this back in the envelope here. I won't actually be needing this to install the graphics card, but if I were someone who was not familiar with it, that's definitely something that I would go after. Set that aside for a moment, and oh, this whole thing comes off. Alright. And here we have the bag with the graphics card. I'll set that aside too. So right off the bat, okay, this is the graphics card bracket. I'm just going to set that in the box. Don't worry about that in a minute. Graphics card itself. Oof. Oh wow, that is not quite as heavy as I thought it was going to be, but it's a very large card. Go ahead and pop this open. Okay, so this is quite a bit bigger. Let me just grab the 2080 Ti for reference scale. Alright, so side by side-ish, that's quite a bit longer than my 2080 Ti. It's quite a bit thicker, with fins that are significantly more dense. Turning it on its side here, you'll note that there's quite a bit more space for air to come out. This is big. Alright, so this is ring fan design. The ring doesn't go all the way around, but they're joined, the fins are joined two at a go, which creates a vortex effect, and basically will enable a stream of cooling. It's a really cool effect. These have a lot. Looks like the density is a little bit more on the 2080 Ti in terms of fan blades, but it does look like this should be able to keep up. Going around the card, we have 3 PCIe 8-pin connectors, which means that I'm going to have to dig out my power supply box and find another connection cable rather than the one that's there. That will basically supply the additional power to make sure that this thing doesn't trip the overcurrent protection. I see that there's a LED array here, which should light up pretty, so we'll have to go ahead and get that adjusted. The heatsink already seems a little bit, I want to say banged up just a bit. Looks like there's some minor QC when they were putting it in the box. I'm not sad about it. It's going to sit in my computer. I don't have a window or anything, and even if I did, at more than a few inches away, I would not see any of that. So it's not that big of a deal. I'm nitpicking there. On the bottom, we see the various fan and LED connectors. This is pretty awesome. This should mean that if one of the fans goes bad eventually, which is the #1 replaced component on a graphics card, they should be able to be replaced without actually taking the heatsink off of the card and just replacing one of the fans somehow. I'm hoping that's the way that that works. That should be the way that that works. But yeah, on the side here we just see some exposed heat pipes. Looks like there's at least 5 heat pipes on that side. There's 2 on the other side, and you can see down in there, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there's quite a few heat pipes going back and forth to basically cool this thing. This is probably going to be a pretty hot card. On the back side, the plate is pretty nice. I wish that the back plates actually covered up the back side of the GPU as well, so that these parts are not exposed. I don't think it'll make a huge difference. I think this is more of an aesthetic choice on their part. But I think that having a completely covered backplate would enhance the aesthetics as well as protect the little small capacitors that are on the back side of this board, as well as all of the other microcircuitry. If something like one of those little parts gets popped off, it's all over for this graphics card. So a little bit more care is required for this card versus the solid aluminum back panel on this. The design on this is a little nicer and that kind of thing. Here we just have some silkscreen printed logos, which are tasteful and nice, and some of the cutouts are pretty nice overall. This isn't bad looking, but I kind of like the plain aluminum back panel a little bit better than something like this. Not at all disappointed. It's just another design choice, but there's that. And as far as I/O goes, we have 4 outputs. These are 3 DisplayPort outputs and an HDMI, as I was explaining previously, which is just enough I/O for my needs. That's not a bad looking panel either. Looks like it'll allow some pretty decent airflow. Overall, I'm really liking this. Doesn't look like there's anything as far as peel here. I'm just going to leave that stuff alone. If there is a peel, then it shouldn't interfere with the workings of the fans. Everything spins freely, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. And that's pretty much it as far as the GPU design. Setting this just on the box for a moment. Taking a look at the included bracket. So this is for stability. Looks like there's a little rubber portion so that things don't impact anything. So it looks like the way that this works is, because it's going to be held in the motherboard like this, and basically just by 2, well, it looks like just 1 screw on the end here, and the graphics card slot itself. This is really weighty, so they wanted to have something to hold it up. This is optional, but this should install here. Nope, I'm out of hands. So this should install like, whoop, like this, I guess. Yeah, just like that. So this rubber portion goes on that part of the card, so it doesn't interfere with anything, and it utilizes that screw hole as well as the next screw holes down, so that it basically stays nice and stable. There's 3 points the top hole and the two lower holes of contact on the case to better hold that in. The only reason I didn't really like this design for the support bracket was basically because it prevents airflow from coming in at a 90 degrees directly to the fans. And in most cases that won't matter at all, but in my case I have a side blowing fan that is an intake from the side of the case, so it sucks air in directly over the graphics card, which then goes through the graphics card and then vented up to the vents in the top part of my case. So I'm not sure whether or not this will block the direct access to that airflow from the fans. So it would be something like that. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and install this alone, see how much it sags. If it does sag for me, I'll go ahead and install the bracket. Otherwise, I will go ahead and leave it off. So that concludes. What are you? Oh, your extra rubber pieces, ostensibly for the CPU sag bracket, I believe. I didn't see anything in the manual when I flipped through it for these pieces, but they are little rubber bits that have pre-applied adhesive. Looks like 3M. I can see their logo on the back. So I'm guessing that that's for the this here. Yeah, this here graphic card bracket, just so it doesn't bump into anything. Anyhow, as I was saying, that concludes the quick unboxing portion. I'm going to go ahead and install this in my machine, and hopefully everything will be great. And I will be rendering this out on the new graphics card. So I'm going to go ahead and cut here, and I will see you in a couple minutes. So I decided that I'm going to go ahead and film the upgrade process anyway. This is not a guide for graphics card installation, but rather just the quick upgrade of my own. I'm going to start off with the adding a PCIe connector to my module power supply. I only have one connector installed, which gives me 2 ports. This new graphics card requires 3, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this in. As you see, I have a twist tie around here, just to keep things out of the way for that particular connector. I'm just going to be using this one and the 2 that I already have here. So this will plug into the power supply, and this will plug into the graphics card. So let's go ahead and find a PCIe port here. Get this side panel case out of the way. Alright. Peripheral and SATA. 6-pin PCIe. Alright, so I've identified one of the PCIe ports that I can plug this into. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do that now. It's on the far side here, so let's go ahead and try to get that in there. Plugging it in right beside the other one should be just fine, and push it in until it clicks. There we go, clicked. So we've got this and these that I pulled out of my 2080 Ti, so we'll go ahead and use those. Set those aside for just a moment, grab our new graphics card, take off the little slot cover here, and plop her into the slot that's a 2080 Ti plugged into. Okay. Alrighty, that's a problem. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this in here. I may have to remove some drive cages. Just trying to maneuver it, see if I can. And yeah, that's a no-go in this case. So I will have to think about how to best accomplish this. Electrically, everything lines up and works well, but my case is not long enough. So I'm going to need a new case. And until then, figure out what I'm going to do. Well, that's kind of a deal breaker for now. I will have to revisit this when I can. Until next time.